You're welcome once again to today's lecture, which is NSC 307, study session 3, which will discuss food and their classifications. In study session 2, you have learnt about nutrition, nutrients, food, and food choices. In this session, you will learn about nutrients in more detail. You'll be introduced to the major categories of nutrients, their sources, functions, and how our body uses each of these nutrients for healthy growth and development. There are 7 main classes of nutrients that the body needs. We have carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, fiber, and water. It is important that everyone consumes these 7 nutrients on a daily basis to help maintain health. Deficiency, excesses, and imbalances in diet can produce negative impact on health, which may lead to diseases. This study session will help you to explain to families and individuals in your community the importance of consuming a healthy and balanced diet and how to do this with the resources available to them. At the end of this study session, you'll be able to explain different classes of foods according to their nutrients. You'll be able to explain various types of macronutrients. You'll be able to explain the 2 micronutrients, that is vitamins and minerals, their classification and their functions in human diet. And also you'll be able to describe a balanced diet for people in your community. Let's move to classification of essential nutrients. Based on the amount of nutrients that each person needs to consume on a daily basis, these nutrients are categorized into 2 groups. We have the macronutrients, which will be consumed in fairly large amounts, and micronutrients, which are only required in small amounts. Macro means large, as their name suggests, and these are nutrients which people need to eat regularly and in a fairly large amount. And these include carbohydrates, fats, proteins, fibers, and water. These substances are needed for the supply of energy and growth, for metabolism and other body functions. Macronutrients provide a lot of calories, but the amount of calories provided varies depending on the food source. For example, each gram of carbohydrate or protein provides 4 calories, while fat provides about 9 calories for each gram. Micronutrients. From the word micro, it means small. Therefore, micronutrient means substances which people need in their diet in only small amounts. These include minerals and vitamins. Most food we eat are mixtures of nutrients. Many of them contain a lot of one nutrient and a little of other nutrients. Foods are often grouped according to the nutrients that they contain in abundance. Foods that contain a lot of protein are called body-building foods or growing foods. Foods that contain a lot of fat or carbohydrates are perhaps only a little protein are called energy-driving foods. Foods which the most important nutrients are vitamins or minerals are called protective foods. For people to stay healthy, they must eat a mixed diet of different foods which contain the right amount of nutrients. Let's look at the detailed description on macronutrients. In this subsection, you are going to look at the different macronutrients in more detail. The macronutrients discussed, I highlighted earlier on, include carbohydrates, proteins, fat, fiber, water. The main sources of carbohydrates are bread, wheat, potatoes of all kinds, maize, rice, cassava, pastas, macaroni, banana, sweets, sugarcane, sweet fruit, and honey. Other foods like vegetables, beans, nuts, and seed contains carbohydrates, but in lesser amounts. You need to know the classes of carbohydrates to enable you to give relevant advice to patients with special needs, like diabetic patients. Classification of carbohydrates. Based on the number of sugar units, carbohydrates are classified into 3 groups, and we have the monosaccharides, we have the disaccharides, and the polysaccharides. The monosaccharides and disaccharides are referred to as simple sugars or simple carbohydrates that our body can easily utilize. For this reason, people with diabetes mellitus should not eat too many of these carbohydrates. Examples include sugar, honey, sweet fruit, and sugar cane. Polysaccharides are called complex carbohydrates, and they need to be broken down into simple sugars to be used by our body. They can be consumed by diabetic patients without restriction. Examples include starch and cellulose. Another macronutrient is protein. About 10 to 35% of calories should come from protein, and protein are needed in our diet for growth and to improve immune functions. They also play an important role in making essential hormones and enzymes, in tissue repair, in preserving lean muscle mass, and supplying energy in times when carbohydrates are not available. Pregnant women need protein to build their bodies and that of their babies and placentas, also to make extra blood and for fat storage. Breastfeeding mothers need protein to make breast milk. The main sources of proteins are meat, chicken, eggs, breast milk, beans, groundnuts, lentils, fish, cheese, and milk. All animal foods contain more protein than plants and are therefore usually better sources of bodybuilding food. Though plant proteins are usually not as good for bodybuilding as animal proteins, they can become more effective nutritionally when both are mixed with each other. Moving to fat, which is another macronutrient. Fat and oils are concentrated sources of energy, so they are important nutrients for young children who need a lot of energy-rich food. Fat can also make meals more tasty and satisfying. Fat is found in meat, chicken, milk products, butters, cream, cooking oils, and fat, cheese, fish, and groundnuts. Fats are classified into unsaturated fat and saturated fat. The classification is important to enable you advise your community about which fats they can consume with less risk to people's health. Saturated fats are not good for person's health. Saturated fats are usually solid at cool temperature, and eating too much of this saturated fat is not good for a person's health, and it can cause heart and blood vessels problems. Unsaturated fats are usually liquid at room temperature, and these types of fats are healthy fats. Examples include fat from fish, oil seeds, maize oil, and groundnut oil, and breast milk. As a general rule, plant sources of fats are better for good health than the animal sources because animal fats contain more saturated fats. Water. You may remember from study session 1 that a 50 kg adult contains 31 liters of water, and a 1-year-old 10 kg child contains nearly 8 liters of water. Almost every part of our body contains large amounts of water. People can live without solid food for a few weeks, but we cannot live without water for more than a few days. An adult needs 2 to 3 liters of water each day, and that is why giving drinks are so important when people lose a lot of water, like in diarrhea. Water is essential for life. We need water for a number of reasons: for the body to make cells and fluids such as tears, digestive juices, and breast milk; for the body to make sweat, for cooling itself; for essential body processes, most take place in water; for keeping the lining of the mouth, the intestine, the eyelids, and the lungs wet and healthy; for the production of urine, which carries waste from the body. Fiber is also another important macronutrient, which is a mixture of different carbohydrates which are not digested like other nutrients, but they pass through the gut nearly unchanged. Foods rich in fiber are vegetables like cabbage, carrots, cassava, fruits like banana, peas, and beans, whole grain cereals like wheat flour and refined maize or sorghum. Fibers should be included in the diet for the following reasons. Fibers make food bulky or bigger, and which can help a person which is overweight to eat less food. Fibers can make feces soft and bulky, which will prevent constipation, and fiber slows the absorption of nutrients so that it helps nutrients to enter the bloodstream slowly. This is important for patients with diabetes mellitus. Let's look at micronutrients. Micronutrients, like we have said, is comprised of vitamins and minerals. Vitamins are groups of related substances that is present in small amounts in foodstuffs and are very necessary for the body to function normally. Vitamins are also called protective foods. They are grouped together because, as their name implies, they are a vital factor in the diet. Classification of vitamins can be classified as fat-soluble vitamins and water-soluble vitamins. The fat-soluble vitamins is made up of vitamin A, D, E, and K, ADEK. They are insoluble in water and they are utilized only if there is enough fat in the body. Water-soluble vitamins, which is B and C, and also folic acid, they are soluble in water and so they cannot be stored in the body. The best sources of micronutrients in our diet are fruits and vegetables. These two food groups contain essential vitamins and minerals. Animal sources of food are also both good sources of micronutrients. However, an adequate micronutrient intake can only be achieved through sufficient intake of balanced diet. Let's look at balanced diet. You have already come across the term balanced diet in this course. In this section, we will discuss what a balanced diet is and the benefit of a balanced diet. It is important that you know enough to be able to recommend a balanced diet for the people in your community. Eating a balanced diet means choosing a wide variety of food and drinks from all the food groups. It also means eating certain things in small amounts, namely saturated fat, cholesterol, simple sugar, salt, and alcohol. The goal is to take in all of the nutrients you need for health at the recommended levels and perhaps restrict those things that are not good for the body. To know if the diet is balanced and to plan a balanced diet, you have to think about two things. That is the mixture of food and the amount of food a person eats. How can we maintain a good balanced diet? The best way is to help individuals in your community to prepare a balanced diet by learning which food people use, the amount of different foods available, and how they prepare their meals. Then you can decide if people need further support or information to improve the balance of things they eat. It helps us identify the food groups people should combine in order to make a balanced diet. The food groups at the top of the pyramid should be eaten in moderation, but food groups that are at the bottom of the pyramid should be eaten in larger amounts. Food combinations. The staple food is the common type of food that is consumed by the community. It should be part of our balanced diet because it is the main part of the most meals. You see a diagram that will show us the pyramid of the food combination in the next slide. The stable diet may vary from region to region. For example, amala is a staple diet in Yoruba land. These foods are usually cheap and provide most of the energy, protein, and fiber in a meal, as well as some vitamins. So in order to have a good balanced diet, people in your community need to eat other foods in addition to the staple foods. The additional foods are important because they will provide nutrients that may not be available in the staple food. They make the food less bulky. They make the diet more tasty and interesting to eat. A diet that is composed of staple legumes and vegetable or fruit is good balanced diet because this is a combination of food that will provide most of the nutrients that people in your community need. And animal sources are good because they contain high protein and they have high energy. Let's look at the food combination from the food pyramid that is shown on your screen. In order to have a good balanced diet, people in your community will need to eat other foods like I've said earlier on. And animal sources are good because they contain high protein, they have high energy. Therefore, adding small amounts of animal products like meat, egg, and milk, and egg to your staples and legumes and vegetables will improve balanced diet. Protein, animal foods will also provide fat and vitamins, and also iron and zinc. But these foods may not be easily available, and even if they are usually expensive. Thank you for listening. See you in the next slide. Bye for now.